So tonight I'd like to offer some more teachings on Jizo Bodhisattva and how this applies to our life. How Jizo manifests in the world. A particular exemplar from our place and time, and the way that things may not be as they seem. So I want to start with this important aspect of the teachings on Jizo from the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. And this is about something, a way that Jizo manifests, called division bodies. Now the premise in one part of the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra is that just before the Buddha's death, he ascended to heaven to preach to his mother, who had died soon after his birth, and thus she was unable to hear the Dharma. So when he did this, hundreds of thousands of division bodies or manifestations of Earth Store Bodhisattva then arrived from innumerable worlds, wherever suffering existed. Each bodhisattva in this enlightened crowd brought flowers and incense for the Buddha. Suddenly, the multitude of bodies assembled into one single body to listen to the Buddha teach. The sutra tells us that the many aspects of Jizo Bodhisattva are not limited to human forms or origins. In order to teach and transform obstinate living beings, Kshitigarbha is able to divide into hundreds of thousands of millions of bodies. This is from the sutra. Perhaps I appear in a male body, or that of a woman, or in the body of a god, a dragon, or that of a spirit or a ghost. Or I may appear as mountains, forests, streams, and springs, as rivers, lakes, fountains, or wells, in order to benefit people. All of these may save beings. Or I may appear in the body of a heavenly king, a Brahma king, a wheel-turning king, a layman, the king of a country, a prime minister, an official, a monk, a nun, in order to teach and rescue beings. It is not only the body of a Buddha that appears before them. So what are the division bodies of the Earth Store Bodhisattva? How are they given birth? The phrase division bodies, also called transformation bodies, refers to the thousands of millions of ways in which Earth Store Bodhisattva transforms in order to fulfill their vow, which is to help all beings trapped in hellish realms. These division bodies do not exist independently. They arise in response to need. When someone is suffering and cries out, even silently, for help, a transformation body is born because of that request. How many transformation bodies are there? As many beings as there are right now who are in distress and asking for help. That is, right now, the number of transformation bodies. This has important implications. First, if we are in need of spiritual help, we should ask for it. Our asking is the cause for the arising of division bodies. If we don't ask, not only are we stuck in our own pride, but we are blocking the arising of bodhisattvas like Jizo. We've all had the experience of being transformed by becoming aware of someone's vulnerability and suffering. We are often not aware of their plight until they ask for help. Consider this difference. If a friend or partner snaps, "Turn off the TV, you never do a lick of work around here," we might be transformed, but not into a bodhisattva, maybe into a demon. If they say instead, "My mother just called to say she's coming over and the house is a mess. Please, could you help me clean for a while?" we might transform into a bodhisattva. This is an aspect of Sangha, the co-creation of enlightened beings. Perhaps we are practicing with the idea that we would like to be a bodhisattva. However, if we only practice by ourselves, we are blocking our own transformation into bodhisattvas. This is because we are keeping ourselves isolated from those who might ask for help in ways that might be difficult. Also, we are blocking the transformation of others who could respond to us with compassion if we were willing to be vulnerable, to ask for and to accept their help. Sangha, the community, means not to hoard our spiritual practice. Sangha means the human being bodies, the raw material out of which bodhisattvas are created. The needs of those Sangha bodies are the means by which this creation occurs. When we see others who enter the path and begin to enjoy its fruits, our hearts should jump with joy. The path of practice bears fruit not in isolation, but in interaction with others. Sangha is where we observe bodhisattvas, is where we become bodhisattvas, is where we make mistakes. And people still love us. We're still part of the Sangha. It's inevitable. Sangha is where our contribution is valuable. It may take a while, but it is possible to find our way to becoming part of the Sangha body. To merge, to blend into the we that is so much larger than the me. Our culture has a bit of an affliction, the affliction of individualism. The value, perhaps the overvalue of being strong and independent, to the extent that anything else is weak and shameful. This is just a wrong view. And when we have an incorrect view, that leads to suffering. We can't really practice the Buddha Dharma alone, not without a Sangha. We can certainly learn about the teachings. We can even apply the teachings. We can feel some results from that. We can test them out for ourselves. And this is what the Buddha taught, that we should not just take things on faith, just believe something because a teacher said it or because it was in a book, but really try it out, see for yourself. But many people in our culture are nightstand Buddhists, is a phrase I've heard, nightstand Buddhists, just doing a bunch of reading, stack of Buddhist books on the nightstand. Or these days, maybe lots of podcasts, Dharma talks while vacuuming. And this is totally fine. This is perfectly fine, a perfectly viable way to interact with the teachings. Gets us in the door, helps us see, well, maybe there is something to this. But I would say that to really practice, you need a Sangha. That would be the next level. That would be all in. That's how it's always been practiced. We're practicing here this evening, right here, right now, because of an unbroken line of humans who dared to be in relationship with each other, or who were suffering enough to practice really deeply. Or who were generous enough to share what they learned. And without all these fallible human beings, the Buddha Dharma does not get expressed. But what if you don't believe any of this? Or what if you don't really believe in the practice? Or what if you don't believe in your own capacity? What if your inner critic is beating you up about your practice right now? We call that skeptical doubt. It's like driving your car with the gas and the brake on at the same time, which is really not good for your car. Same is true for us. Skeptical doubt can be a real barrier to our wholehearted application of the teachings here together. A barrier to going all in and really seeing what it is. Can be a self-consciousness that is judgmental and negative, whether that's pointed inward or outward. And it's totally normal. In fact, it's really, in some ways, a requirement for our process on the path. It's called one of the hindrances or obstacles. There's 5 of them that come up pretty reliably in any practice, especially at a retreat. Skeptical doubt may emerge. The other hindrances are restlessness or anxiety, or maybe fatigue or torpor, where you're just not able to keep your eyes open or stop nodding off. Sometimes irritation or anger can be the flavor, bitterness. Or maybe there's just craving for whatever it is you're missing, or for some particular mind state that you're hoping for. This is all just wanting things to be other than they are. And that is the human condition. And that is a necessity on the path of the way, in the practice of the Buddha Dharma. It's like not even so much as a feature on the map or a feature that you would point to and say, oh, look, there it is. It is part of the territory. Every single ancestor in our lineage that has ever practiced with any seriousness has run into all of these hindrances. This is the path. This is it. It's not, the word hindrance and obstacle kind of is already incorrect. But we can notice the flavor of these things and really notice how we're wanting things to be different than they are, or wanting ourselves to be other than we are. That we're practicing the opposite of acceptance. We're practicing the opposite of what's here right now. And that's just a habit that we can take note of, really look at. See what happens if we let that go. And that way we really arrive on the path. Can we accept even our experience of the hindrances? Really be in it, just really becoming a student of them. This is one of my favorite little teachings on meditation. It's by a meditation teacher named Bob Sharples. It's just a brief little, it's almost like a poem. He says, don't meditate to fix yourself, to heal yourself, to improve yourself, to redeem yourself. Rather, do it as an act of love, of deep, warm friendship to yourself. In this way, there is no longer any need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement, for the endless guilt of not doing enough. It offers the possibility of an end to the ceaseless round of trying so hard that wraps so many people's lives in a knot. Instead, there is now meditation as an act of love. How endlessly delightful and encouraging. I'll read that again. Don't meditate to fix yourself, to heal yourself, to improve yourself, to redeem yourself. Rather, do it as an act of love, of deep, warm friendship to yourself. In this way, there is no longer any need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement, for the endless guilt of not doing enough. It offers the possibility of an end to the ceaseless round of trying so hard that wraps so many people's lives in a knot. Instead, there's now meditation as an act of love. How endlessly delightful and encouraging. How do we enact the Jizo qualities of benevolence, of friendliness? We can invite this friendliness towards ourselves in this very moment, just as we are. Why not? But maybe we need help. Maybe we need help from a friend, though, to remind us how to do it, or to show us that we are in fact worthy of it. Or maybe we need help from a neighbor. I told you I'd be talking about some Jizos who walk among us. One who may have recently made the transition to parinirvana is, of course, Mr. Fred Rogers. He was a protector and advocate for children, a safe harbor for children of all ages. He was someone who was able to awaken this in all of us. One of my favorite Fred Rogers quotes is this: "Anything that's human is mentionable. And anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us know that we are not alone." We are not alone. Mr. Rogers reminds us of our own childlike qualities: innocence, openness, acceptance. I recently saw an Instagram video of a little girl. She's on the sidewalk in front of her house, and she's being recorded from by a parent in the yard, and she's kind of excitedly looking down the sidewalk. You can't really see what she's looking at outside the frame, but she's just looking down the sidewalk, standing there. And then all of a sudden another little girl zooms by on her bike, and the little girl standing there says, "Hey, let's be friends." And the other one on the bike, as she passes, goes, "Okay." And that's it. It's done. And she goes running after her new friend. This energy, this unself-consciousness, this loving spontaneity. But Mr. Rogers may not have just come out that way or always been like that. Mr. Rogers was transformed to become who he was. He was tempered by adversity, by loneliness, and even unkindness or cruelty. It was in that he found the depths of empathy and kindness that he shared so freely for so much of his life. He was an only child until his sister was adopted into the family when he was 11. Apparently he was overweight and very shy, very sheltered. He also suffered from severe asthma. He had scarlet fever at one point, and he says about every imaginable childhood disease. These circumstances, his long absences from school, his being alone in his room day after day, made it difficult for him to fit in at his elementary school. An hour outside of Pittsburgh, he said, "I felt I had no friends." And then he tells of a time when he was walking home from school, and he says a whole group of boys began following him. As he walked the 11 blocks to his house, the boys began taunting him and then chased after him as he ran away, shouting all the while, "Freddie, hey, fat Freddie, we're going to get you, Freddie." Of course, those experiences were traumatizing. He says, "I cried to myself whenever I was alone." Apparently there's an archivist and researcher at the Fred Rogers Center in his hometown, and she says, it seems that Fred's greatest adversity was loneliness. Can you believe it? His greatest adversity was loneliness. He was overweight and shy and sometimes felt that people could not look beyond those things. In a speech to St. Vincent College, Mr. Rogers said that the negative experiences of his childhood made him seek out stories of other people who were poor in spirit, and I felt for them. This suffering was the birth of empathy and compassion. But there were some who saw beyond his outward appearance. One time, he wanted to climb a stone wall at his grandfather's farm, but his mother and grandmother wouldn't let him because they didn't want him to get hurt. His grandfather stepped in and encouraged his grandson to climb the wall, saying he needed to learn to do things for himself. Another person who advocated on his behalf was one of his high school classmates, Jim Stumbaugh. Jim was popular and Fred wasn't. But one day, Stambau became injured in a football game, and Rogers had to deliver his homework to him at the hospital. Stambau got to know a different side of Fred Rogers through their interactions. And later, when he returned to school after his injury, Stambau took Rogers under his wing. Fred always gave Jim credit with giving him the confidence to have a good high school experience. And one of Fred Rogers' longtime friends, the man who played Mr. McFeely on the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood Show, said, "I've often wondered if there hadn't been a Fat Freddie, would there have been a Mr. Rogers?" So who was transforming who in this story? The vulnerability of the popular football star needing help. And that help took the form of a kid who was being bullied and ostracized. So here's another piece from the Jizo Bodhisattva teachings. In response to our suffering, Jizo Bodhisattva transforms into many forms: a man, a woman, a god, a king, or a stream. This means that whatever we will pay attention to that can relieve our suffering, Jizo Bodhisattva will transform into. A man who has had a difficult mother might be better able to hear the Dharma from a male teacher. A woman who was abused by her father in childhood might only be able to be open and inspired by a woman teacher. A Vietnam veteran might distrust all humans and find peace only living alone in the creases and folds of the huge mountain torso and forest pelt of the earth store bodhisattva body. In any of us, a turbid, peevish state of mind can arise. We can go to the sanctuary of a forest to breathe in the fresh air exhaled by the damp earth and flowing stream transformation bodies. Jizo transforms into whatever resuscitation equipment the parts of the one body require to find relief from distress. We can ask who has appeared to liberate us. But a more important question is, whom have we been born to liberate? For we are all division bodies, born in response to urgent need, to heal the human world. Can we be awakened enough to hear those who call to us, to know where our place of healing activity is? Home, temple, school, lab, store, shop, garden, or office? For suffering has to be actively and repeatedly abandoned in every situation in which it manifests. It does not disappear completely in one magic instant as we sit in the meditation hall. In the sutra, the 10,000 million forms of Jizo return to a single form. This did not happen in the past. It happens all the time. Right now, where is that form? That one form is the storehouse of all forms of human benevolence, supreme optimism, and unflagging effort to save all beings. Do you know where to find it? And if that seems too mysterious, weird, and woo-woo, well, it gets more mysterious. Our practice is to get really intimate with not knowing. Just think of all the things you do not know. And then think of all the things you think you know, but are wrong about. I mean, what's left? Not much. Science is all about evolving our clarity about things. How many times has it drastically had to change course because we as a species were, and probably still are, way, way off? So we bow. We bow for many reasons. And one of them is to practice and embody humility. My teachers sometimes call bowing the yoga posture of humility. We're not bowing to the Buddha as a god or a graven image or anything like that. We're just practicing humility. Humility has the same root word, humus, as earth, as human. We're just earth. So we might as well get down onto the earth, put down our thinking mind, rest our forehead on the earth. Yet another practice in which we can reconnect with what we already are, just earth. And just because we can't see or hear or smell something doesn't mean it's not there. Just think how bees and other animals have particular kind of maybe infrared seeing, and how different flowers look to them. They see things completely differently. They can see things we can't see. Just think how sensitive dogs' noses are. How whales make and hear sounds so low that they're underneath our own human capacity to hear them without special equipment. So here's the more mysterious part. If there are unseen energies and beings around us, if some of these are able to assist us in our spiritual quest, and if we do not call on them for aid, is that not the height of pride, the kind of hubris that characterizes the realm of the gods and leads to their downfall? Buddhists in Japan talk of Jinriki, self-power, and Tanriki, other power, or power from the other side. This other side is not outside of ourself. It's just currently hidden from us by our clouded perception. When this other side is concealed, we have to call upon it in faith. Its hidden nature helps to develop and strengthen our faith mind. We are calling to and thus calling forth Jizo Bodhisattva. A dedication in our chants says, when this request is sent forth, it is perceived and subtly answered. It is perceived and subtly answered. We may not know how, but perhaps we do know that there is an effect for every cause, every action, every word, every thought has some effect. And if we wholeheartedly ask for help, if we open to the possibility of mysterious resources, there may be a subtle answer. One we may not even know. As we call upon Jizo, we may envision what this bodhisattva might look like. How would great wisdom and compassion appear when embodied in a human body? How do our own body, mind, and heart appear when wisdom and compassion manifest fully. You never know what form Jizo will take. One of the most profound stories illustrating Fred Rogers' approach to empathy comes from Tim Madigan's memoir, I'm Proud of You, My Friendship with Fred Rogers. In this account, Mr. Rogers visited a teenage boy living with severe cerebral palsy and deep struggles with anger. Watching Mr. Rogers' neighborhood was one of the young man's only comforts. Yet even the thought of meeting Fred in person made him so anxious that he became upset with himself. So much so that his mother had to take him aside to calm him. Fred waited patiently, embodying both his signature gentleness and unwavering presence. When the boy returned, Fred didn't offer him advice or platitudes. Instead, he made a quiet and radical request. I would like you to pray for me. Will you pray for me? The boy, used to being the subject of others' prayers, was astonished. Nobody had ever asked him to pray for them before, especially not someone he admired so deeply. The simple, sincere request gave the boy a new sense of worth. If Mr. Rogers needed his prayers, perhaps he had something uniquely valuable to give. Over time, this new sense of agency and connection helped ease the boy's despair. Yet the story's impact goes even deeper. When the author, Madigan, complimented Fred for the wisdom of empowering this boy with his request, Fred's response was revealing. Oh, heavens no, Tom. I didn't ask him for his prayers for him. I asked for me. I asked him because I think that anyone who has gone through challenges like that must be very close to God. I asked him. I asked him because I wanted his intercession. This is how Jizos are manifested in the world. You never know what form Jizo will take. You could try it. You could try it right now. Or you could try it tonight. Do you need help with something?